So let's start with the refresher. Basically, this was brought out a little over a year ago, in May, I think, of 2021. This is the Security Directive 01 requirements. Basically,
Yeah.
there are 4 of them. Marco, I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
start.
just the key thing here is that obviously post-colonial, there was quite a bit of ripple where TSA had really came out of the gate with the Security Directive in 01, which came out in May 28th, or went into effect May 28th, 2021. Really came out to talk about making sure that companies that were in the pipeline industry or pipeline sector that were affected by the Security Directive, that they designate a cybersecurity coordinator, and it also have a alternate coordinator. So what was interesting is that I didn't see a lot of postings in LinkedIn for a coordinator role, but what I did find out in talking to peers and that on the asset owner side is that many of them assumed the position and have taken that role. And it kind of makes sense. Many of them have been doing cyber and industrial control systems for some time, but that was one of the requirements that came out of 01 is that you need to have somebody 24/7. So that was a bit of a change. And then that third requirement is that requiring the operators and owners to really review their current activities against the recommendations. So really look at and assess the risk, identify any gaps, and really develop and report any remediations to TSA and to CISA as a joint effort. And one of the key things that we saw with the SD, with the 01, was that it did have a good list of definitions, at least out of the gate, for IT and then the operational technology side of it, defining things like disruption or what is an incident. And there still is a lot of, there's been a lot of things that have been updated and refined as the requirements have been pushed out and the later versions have been pushed out, because it still leaves a lot of questions. But that definitely is that timeline, and it really helped, at least from the TSA side, about knowing who is going to be the coordinator and how they respond.
Yeah, and the defining things up front is really key, right? Even in the IT world, defining an incident is not as straightforward as you would immediately think it is. So,
well, and so one of the other key ripples, though, when 01 came out, was the fact that no one really knew what was in it, and it was just when it was published, there was a knee-jerk reaction as to, well, what's in it? What does it say? What do we have to do? And so, and the same holds true even for when the 02 requirements came out.
Yep. Speaking of which, here we are.
Yeah, so when 02 came out, that really was an influx of very prescriptive controls. 3 of the main top requirements were to implement a criticality important mitigation measures, for example, to reduce the effects or the levels of compromise. But the second requirement was to develop a contingency and response plan to also help reduce that risk. And it was definitely around, specifically targeted around the IT, but mainly OT, operational technology for gas and liquid. And then the third requirement was to test the effectiveness of owner-operators practices. That the thing is that this also came out as a ripple because, again, industry was not prepared or even understood what was going to be in this. So when they really looked at it and they received it, there were things in there. And again, when 02 came out, let me reemphasize that this was considered sensitive and SSI information. Right. And so the key piece there is when that went into effect on June 26th of 2021, was that there was a lot of secrecy around it, and news media were trying to get information around it. Even the asset owners were trying to embrace and put their hands around it on what was in it. And then here recently, I want to say in this year, that SSI for 02 has been lifted with the coming of 02 Charlie. So anyway, the key piece there is that there was a lot of prescriptive things such as passwords, right. Zero trust, how do you deploy that? And there was a major pushback from industry to TSA, so much so that they banded together. Industry organizations and associations actually banded together and were they sent a letter to TSA saying that, hey, we've been working on our systems for many years. We understand them. We understand the criticality. We understand the impacts, the consequences. We have major concerns that many of the things you're prescribing could have, impacts. And so you don't really understand our systems or our specific systems for our company compared to other companies. We may operate a little bit differently, but also the timelines. There was a major push to get, 30-day, 90-day, 180-day, and it's like, how do you deploy that out across infrastructure across the U.S. and not impact or shoot yourselves in the foot when it comes to maintenance departments and groups and I&E groups and measurement crews that may be working on the same PLCs and systems, and the technology itself may not be able to support some of those systems. So.
Right, and so 2B was born basically, which was really basically the same requirements as 2. It's just that the deadlines were extended out to a more reasonably safety first mentality, which frankly, it just seems like the TSA wasn't really in that OT headspace when they first came out with the 2 deadlines and everything. So 2B was.
Yeah, they definitely started to listen to industry after receiving letters from the industry associations and
everybody, all the associations.
Exactly, and so there was some level of ability to work with things, but it was still very prescriptive. So again, like you said, the other piece to it is that deadlines were extended to add more flexibility for the owner operators, but there was still that prescriptive in nature. So they listened. But again, when you put on the other side of the hat from the regulator or the federal side, trying to make sure that people are doing the right thing sometimes it seems overbearing, and some of these things that are being asked may actually impact and have consequences. So although it's a good shape effort from TSA, the reality is that even O2B, even with extended deadlines, they were allowing pipeline companies, to come back and provide alternative measures for them to review in place of. And so there were many that sent, alternative measures that were rejected. And so, but there were some that were accepted, and I don't have the statistics on it. I know that TSA has meetings and discusses things around that, but the fact of the matter is that that's kind of the onslaught of where we started, and keeping in mind that 01, you still have to have a 24/7 coordinator with the pipeline side.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and technically, this is the directive that's currently in effect, correct? Because O2C has not been adopted formally yet.
That is correct. So O2B is still in effect until you actually get approved with your actual plan.